The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome, everybody. Another edition of Keefer and Kurre. How many awards have we won so far, Tony?
About 6 or 7, I think. No, we've been up for about 10 or 12, but we're about 6 or 7 deep in. Not bad for a show. It's only been on for a couple of years, 2-3 years.
Yeah. Well, I've had my tuxedo pressed, but I don't remember any invites, so it must not be too. Did they give those awards out like in the back room of the Western Sizzler? Or
as long as it ain't the Razzies, brother, we're good to go. I don't give us flying squad. I know what we do is really, really good, and our listenership is fantastic. That's all I care. That's all I care about, man. That's all I care about.
Well, I just ranted and raved on this week's edition of Need to Know about a typical weekend for our president, Donald Trump, and how involved he is in so many things.
When the hell does that man sleep? Seriously. It's amazing how much he's got more done, or he's moved. He's, first of all, more executive orders than any president has in the history of the world, and he did that pretty much the first day he was in office. He's had more executive orders. But this guy just, he's so consistent. He never changes. He's never tired. It's just amazing. It's amazing the fact that he's getting this done.
Tony, he's 80 years old.
Unbelievable.
I'm embarrassed. I'm not considerably younger, but
I just turned 60. There's no way I could keep up with that. There's no way I could keep up with that. It's amazing.
I would be dead on my feet after half a day of what he does. This weekend I just described, not only did he prosecute a war and wheel and deal, he fired a cabinet member. He hosted a new group at the White House of world leaders to have a brand new kind of a coalition to. This is all on Friday. He did all those things. He had them in, and then what we're going to talk about. He still had time to have the meeting we're going to talk about in just a second here. But then he got on a plane that night when that meeting ended about 7:00, flew to Miami, I guess got to Mar-a-Lago and shut it down. We didn't hear from him. I mean, he was out of, what was he up to? I think he did a few tweets on social, whatever his platform is. He had a tea time at Doral at 6:30 a.m. I guess that's right when the sun came up. He played 18 holes. He went in, showered, put on his suit, and hosted a meeting of all the delegates from all of the Latin American countries for a noon luncheon and got them all rallied up and whatnot. Got back on a plane at 3:00, flew back to Washington so he could meet the remains of some American soldiers that have unfortunately been killed in this Middle East situation. Soldiers that were on their bases. They weren't involved in active combat, but he received those remains and made remarks. This guy did all that in about a 30-hour period. It's just unbelievable.
And he's building a ballroom. And he's overlooking a ballroom. Which
That's
is
right.
It's
It's his favorite thing. But on Saturday, Tony, at 5:00 Eastern time, he in the East Room, he had about 55 guests. And he presided over a meeting to talk about saving college sports. Now, certainly that's a major topic, but I'm just not sure where that fits in the pecking order with a serious war going on and all these delegates from all over the world flying in to meet with him.
You gotta get business done. When you get business done, the amazing thing too is how would you like to be like his intern? How would you like to be the guy who has to put together getting 50 people together like Nick Saban, like Urban Meyer, which, by the way, I don't know why Urban Meyer was even there. But, you had the four big commissioners. You had Sankey, you had Petita, you had Brett Yorkman, you had Jim Phillips, you had the president of the Yankees there, you had Adam Silverman coming in from the NBA.
Yeah, Tiger Woods.
You had Tiger Woods, you had Condoleezza Rice.
Was he working on the people's short game? What was Tiger's role in that?
But there were two people that weren't there, and this in lies the problem. those two people were, there wasn't one commissioner from the group of five there, and there wasn't one.
Well, there was one. The American Conference commissioner was there.
Like I said, there was nobody there.
Yeah, exactly. If you know his name, you get a cash prize.
As far as I know, at least according to AI, there was not one student athlete in the house.
No, not one student.
And this is mom and dad having a discussion about their son, and he doesn't have any say in what's going to happen to his life in college. But there wasn't one kid there. I would think there would have been one representative, but there was not one in the house.
And I'll add one more. There was not one fan there. There was not one just run-of-the-mill season ticket holder or donor to a university that was just a regular guy that has tickets and pays for the game and pays $50 to park and pays $25 for a hot dog. And an Indiana fan, Tony, do you know, I think we talked about it on TV this last week, the average ticket, not the exclusive ticket, the average ticket to the national championship game, $6,855.
It's ridiculous. The idea of me being able to take my son, and I'm just praying my son goes to Clemson. He's a junior this year. He wants to work in sports business management somehow. And I said, listen, honey, I said, I've been promising you a World Series. I've been promising you a Super Bowl. I've been promising you an NBA championship. He's a big Cleveland Cavs fan. I said, you are going to have to take your old man to one of these events because your old man ain't going to be able to afford it. Unless I hit the lottery late in my life, it's not going to happen. And it used to be, listen, he used to have a shot. I had a boss here who was with his son at the time. This is back in, was the last time Ohio State won a national title back. This is 20 years ago. This is before their most recent run. But he was going, I think it was out in LA. Tell me if I'm wrong. But he told his son, if Ohio State ever goes to a national championship in college football, we're going. And of course, the trip was $3,000 for him and a partner of his. His 10-year-old son said, Dad, this is the one I want to go to. He ends up picking up the price tag and he goes, I'll never forget I had to pay $6,000. This is the guy who was programming a radio station. So he wasn't making that kind of jack. And he said, that'll be the last time I ever get a chance to see a game like that. And he's glad he went and saw it when he had the opportunity because now it's so far outside our realm. But to your point, there's a lot of things that needs to be fixed. The unfortunate thing, though, after the 2-hour meeting on Saturday, I feel like there's more questions than answers.
Oh, and absolutely. And let me tell you what I don't hear anybody else saying that I have been saying since this thing happened. And I pontificated on Saturday morning, my local radio show, Game Time on Jocks. We had Terry Quillian, my partner who's worked in 2 presidential administrations, knows how everything works in Washington. You listed a lot of the people on the guest list, but of course also there was Governor Ron DeSantis, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who you would think would be a little busy right now. They were both on hand. All kinds of other politicians,
Ted Cruz
senators,
was there.
Ted Cruz, absolutely. So you've got all these guys wanting to be, because this is a national issue. Every single state, 50 states, every issue is not common to every state, but college athletics is. And you had this interesting mix of people, but here's the problem, Tony, that nobody's talking about. Yes, you had the commissioners there, and yes, all of them got up and made their impassioned speech about how, we need the president's, President Trump, we need your help to get this morass fixed up, this disaster that has been created, which a lot of the disaster was of their own doing because them and their partners, the NCAA, did nothing to address the inevitable that we were going to come to this pay-for-play era. They fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court, as a matter of fact, Tony, paying lawyers millions and millions of dollars. And these are the highest level lawyers in the world. Are you telling me that the lawyers did not advise their clients? Dude, you got no shot to win this suit. These kids are going to get the opportunity to get paid. Nobody's going to sympathize with you. And the decision by the Supreme Court, Tony, on the case of the House versus the NCAA, which was House was a swimmer that brought the suit and then demanded athletes should be compensated. 9 votes yay for the students, 0 votes aye for the for the NCAA. 9-0. When's the last time there was a 9-0 vote in the Supreme Court on any issue?
Don't know if we've ever had one.
Slam dunk. And you're telling me the highest fluting lawyers in the country didn't advise their client? Why are we doing this? We got no we need to but they're not going to do it because the lawyers always win and get billions. But here's the point, because I always do this. I get off on the off ramp before I get back on the expressway. Mm-hmm. Now I'm back on the expressway. The interests of the people at that meeting, Tony, were so divergent. Okay, they're all sitting shoulder to shoulder, the commissioners. But Cody Campbell, who's the big booster for Texas Tech, who's put millions of his own money, of the billions this relatively young man, about 40 years old, has made in the oil business, former Texas Tech player. He's an advisor to President Trump on all of this stuff. But his conference, the Big 12, gets about maybe 2/3 of the money that the SEC and the Big Ten command as the two, alpha dogs in the room. So you've got Sankey and you got Petiti sitting with Yormark and Phillips. Their conferences, Jim Phillips gets up with, Mr. President, we desperately need your help. The sport is in total disarray. Greg Sankey and Tony Petiti, we're not on that team, Tony. No. They've got it going their way. They're not there begging for socialism. They're not there. Cody Campbell, the ultimate capitalist who has struck it rich in the oil business. Do you think the guy across the field who's got a dry well and isn't getting jack? Cody's going to go, you know what? I think everybody in the oil business should pool all of our money together and we'll just spread it around equally. I mean, how ridiculous. All the agendas of everybody in that room were different. Nick Saban got up and made this impassioned speech. And I've got all the respect in the world for Nick Saban. But the reason Nick Saban isn't coaching anymore is because Nick Saban's still living in 1985. And that's where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be in 2026. Nick Saban's big lament was, we've got to get back to the mission that college sports was supposed to be conveying. We got to get back to developing young people and get them prepared for the rigors of life and the challenges they're going to face. Tony, if somebody's writing you a check for $3 or $4 million when you're still in high school, are you worried about the rigors and the challenges that life's going to present? I mean, what is Nick smoking?
No, God rest his soul, too. It would have been great if we could have dug up Lou Holtz just one final time and propped him up and done a weekend at Bernie's, because when I looked at Nick, I heard Lou Holtz's voice speaking through him, because he was
true. That's
he was
a
the
great
reverend.
point.
He was the reverend, man. He was the man that believed in college sports. He believed not only in the sanctification, the justification of what college sports was all about. He liked the fact that the word student came before athlete, and he loved the fact that there was a sense of naivety. There was a sense that there was some innocence still there. There was a sense that these players were still playing for the love of the game and not because of the mighty dollar. And now we've seen it totally get flipped on its head. The other person who was there, quite frankly, I'm not sure why he was there, Charlie Baker. I mean, another guy, again, we've created this NCAA. Can you imagine going into a room? I mean, this is all about the NCAA and what the NCAA has fallen to. And now, of course, they've gotten a recent victory. And all of a sudden, they're growing some teeth and some fangs again. And all of a sudden, you're like, you know what it is? It's like Grandpa, who's 89 years old, and we're all discussing in the family where we're going to send him to live, but he's still cognizant. Okay, where you want to send Pops? I don't know. What do you think about that place down the street? And he can't say a word. He's just sitting there looking around. He's drooling out of his mouth. He's looking around. Well, what about that place down there? I know it's only 6 down there, screaming at each other so he can perhaps hear a word they're saying. It's only $10,000 a month, but I don't think Dad needs the tennis court. So let's go ahead and go to that one where the meals are like half as much. And he's sitting there going, yeah. That's what Charlie Baker's doing right now. He has absolutely no say in anything that's happening. And good chance he probably won't survive this whole thing. We have to have somebody in that representative seat, and so he is there. But yeah, for the most part, I don't know what we got done here. And ultimately, it came down to another two things that Donald Trump has just been notorious for, and that is slamming on the Democrats in the Senate and putting out another executive order. He's like, the only way we're going to get this through, men, is an executive order and go to the courts and get it done. And he knew exactly what he was doing when he built that Supreme Court he had. He knew exactly how he was going to get things finished. He is not that guy who's going to ask his wife if he can go to Vegas first. He will always ask. He will always ask for, of course, an apology after he gets back from Las Vegas, not before he goes. And so he's going to get done whatever he wants. And then he's going to go back, and the House and the Senate are going to go, well, I thought we had something to say about that. I love, by the way, your need to know. There's a lot of things that don't need to be known. And attacking Iran, Iraq, whatever, that is not one of them. That's not one of those things we need to vote on. That's something, if we just keep our pie holes shut and go shoot some things and take care of business without letting everyone know what we're planning on doing, maybe we'll get something done. And that's why you're seeing these Venezuelan drug boats dry up. You don't see those anymore, do you, now all of a sudden? Because we had no clue. They're like, holy shit, they're firing at everything, man. They're firing at pleasure cruises, man. We're out of here. We're not running that game anymore. So, ultimately they're talking about bringing back the SCORE Act. I when you brought this up this morning, and I was so jacked up on it, the Student Compensation Opportunity Through Rights and Endorsements Act. I want to get your thoughts on that. This is something that's been out there for a long period of time. It was a bipartisan draft bill that currently passed in the House. It is something that at least we're finding some common ground on. I know it is a step back, but it's kind of like where we were in the first place. And quite frankly, we have let the toothpaste out. We're not going back to not paying players. We're not going back to even putting a number on that. The $20 million number, I don't know where they came up with that or how that's going to work. I don't think we're going to come off that. That's going to be like an NBA thing where I think it's going to increase year to year based on our TV revenues and based off the kind of deals we get with TV. We're not going to back off that. And so here's what we have. Now we need to fix what we have, and that is maybe only have one transfer portal throughout the entire year. Maybe get rid of that December signing day so we don't have players saying they're going to go one place and then 2 hours later they're getting $1 million from somewhere else and leaving. Maybe we need to have some of these things. The Bediako case is certainly, I think that is certainly moving in the right direction. We need to have some teeth to some of these laws and say, listen, there needs to be a precedent set. So guys who are coming back for their 8th and 9th and 10th season because someone wants to pay them know, hey, listen, I can't do this, or I can't go play for Europe first and come back because, as you mentioned, there are European players all over the NCAA. Yep. It's just that they hadn't played college basketball first. But I think we know what we have. I think it's the Wild West. Now I think we go ahead and put some of those scumbags away and deal with what we've got. We've got ourselves a gold rush. We've got a lot of people that don't know what's going on. We got loopholes out the yin-yang, and we just got to do what we can to keep it in front of us so the majority of student athletes and therefore colleges continue to play.
Well, and you mentioned the House settlement. Part of the House settlement, which was the suit against the NCAA brought by a swimmer named House.
Of all things.
Yeah, people confuse that. That's the House of Representative bill. That's not what it was.
Mm-mm.
But they capped the amount of expenditures for player compensation of all sports to $20.4 million per year in that settlement. As of today, Tony, 18 schools last year now that have all their accounting in, 18 schools completely blew right by that. They just ignored that order. Texas Tech, Cody Campbell, the great socialist, spent almost $38 million himself. Or 38, is 38 million, anyway, and they just ignored that edict. So
because there's not a damn thing anyone can do about it yet. There's not. I mean, there's no rules. So there's nothing they can do. They can just blow past it.
Yeah, like our man, the legend says, there ain't no sheriff in town, so why is anybody worried?
No, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. No.
You can do whatever you want. The other thing is, again, there's just such a divergent set of interests where, we talked about the conferences not being on the same page, but let's talk about the institutions themselves. Comparing, you mentioned Ohio State. That's a good one. Let's take Ohio State. Comparing Ohio State to Drake University in Iowa. That's like Augusta National putting their arm around the Roebuck Municipal Course here in Birmingham, and well, we're both golf courses, so we're on the exact same page as far as the issues. They're not the same thing. They might both be golf courses, might have 18 holes and 18 flags, but they're completely different species. It's the same. The players you mentioned not represented, no athletes, no students represented. They wrote this heartfelt letter to the president and said, "How can we not be included? And we need to be there so we can all get together as collectively bargain." That's not going to work, Tony, because once again, somebody on the crew team at Princeton is not in the same. Pun intended. I just didn't mean to do it. They're not in the same boat.
There you're right.
As a $7 million quarterback. The Princeton crew team is probably lucky to be getting a sandwich at the break. So how can you collectively bargain when everybody's interests are completely across the board? You can't make up one deal for everybody. That's completely ridiculous.
No, and the other thing you bring up, I think UAB's got, what is it, 32 sports? I mean, it's crazy.
A lot.
It may be.
Because of Title IX, they have to.
Yeah, and you're thinking to yourself, and I realize when they brought back, a lot of people don't remember this, when they brought back football, they brought back bowling and they brought back archery as well. Listen, I think it's great that we have bowling. I think it's great that we have archery. I think if you want to have an archery team, my son told me over in Clemson right now, they're pulling for they want to do some type of mechanic thing with RC cars and stuff like that. They want to have an RC class where they're racing drones. They want to do a drone competition because now you can watch drone competitions on TV. I saw one the other day, and it's the craziest thing where they're racing inside stadiums and stuff. They want to have a drone team.
Oh, wow.
Talk about something that's expensive. So, it may come down to, listen, and you and I learned this early in life, and I'm so glad. Life is just not fair. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you were born a girl, but you think you're a boy, and you want to go through a sex change and take testosterone, and now you're not allowed to compete on the men's swimming team. Sorry. First of all, you're spending way too much time talking about this stuff. It's less than 1% of the people that have this issue. I'm sorry. I'm not going to spend another 10 minutes watching NBC Nightly News on a women's swimmer who used to be a male who thinks she's a female, but she's actually married to another male who's actually got a girlfriend who's actually a male and a female at the same time.
Yeah.
I can't even keep track. And oh, by the way, I got to call them they and not her or him. And all of a sudden they're suing because they can't go swim because they've won every stinking swim meet there is possible because the length of the pool because they have a penis. This stuff is like it's just gotten out of control. Life ain't fair. It's just not fair. And there's a lot of things in life. And as we get older and these college kids are going to realize this, you realize that sometimes you just don't get your way. And if you're dealt a bad hand, then you have to play the hand you're dealt. You gotta deal with it,
but the thing is, you still can play the hand. You just have to play it to the best of your ability.
I mean, I'm not gonna get out of the way of one individual and hurt 97 others to make sure that you have your way. Sorry, the majority rules. That's the way it is, and that's why we see the Big Ten and the SEC running this show. I did think it was really interesting, though, the Big Four, the fact that Sankey and Petiti were there. You knew they were going to be there. I was wondering if Yorkmark and Phillips were actually going to be invited to this party.
I know.
Because there was a chance that you're like, do we need to have them there? I mean, do we need to have the ACC and the Big 12 there? I mean, the Big 12 after they lost Texas and Oklahoma was done. They were finished. I mean, it was out. They were done. And you're thinking to yourself, the fact that these guys, I didn't see the room and how it was set up. I don't know if they were sitting in the back seat. They may have been in the standing room area or something, man. I don't even know if they got name tags when they walked in the door. But the fact that the four of them got together and said, hey, listen, we're going to work with the president any way we possibly can. We want to see this through, and we want to make sure. whatever. Greg
That's
Sankey can give a flying shit about what's going on. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the SEC. And I'm so glad that we are SEC fans, because we're sitting on the mountaintop looking down at everyone else.
Yeah.
And we think we have all the answers. The truth of the matter is we can't back up now. What you've done, I'll never forget it. My son, has got special needs and stuff, and I'm always pushing him to do things he's never done before, right? So we go to this this aquarium up in Newport, Kentucky, and he's like 6 or 7 years old, and they had this thing where you walk across the sharks, right? And it's a bridge, and it's made out of rope, right? And it's got all these things to hold on to, and you really have to have some upper strength. And I knew my son was super strong, and he's legally blind, so he couldn't see what he was doing. I can only imagine. I said, "Do you want to walk across the sharks?" He said, "Man, that sounds super cool." So what you did is you walked across this bridge over this open pool of like 25 bullhead sharks and all kinds of crazy sharks, and they're throwing meat in the water at the chum in the water, and they're flashing around, and you're walking, people are taking pictures. It's super cool. Well, he gets halfway across, and you know what happens? You don't want to go across anymore.
Oh,
he's like, I'm not doing this. It scared the hell out of him. And I said, honey, we've got about a mile of people behind us. Yep. And people in front of you are saying, come on, we only have about another 10 or 15 feet to go. It was only about 35, 40 feet.
Sure.
I said, but you got to finish. You're in the middle of the bridge. You can't back up. You got to go forward. And sometimes in life, you just can't back up.
That's a great story.
You can't back up in this. And you know what? He still talks about it. He still talks about the day he walked over the sharks. It scared the hell out of him. I can't imagine being legally blind and walking over sharks. I mean, he didn't know what the hell I was. He knew his dad wouldn't go put him in any kind of danger, but come on. He's 6 years old. He goes across that. He still remembers it. But my point is, sometimes you just can't back up. And the NCAA and college sports right now, it's out. We cannot back up. The answer on the table. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do with them. They're either invited to dinner or we blow the place up, and we ain't going to do the latter. It ain't going to happen. So we got to go forward. We got to figure out what we've created here, and we got to figure out and we got to get past, Kip, and I hate this, but we got to get past this fair thing, man. Life ain't fair. It's not fair. It's fair that the Ukrainians are getting the shit bombed out of it. It's not fair that Israel's out there. It's not fair. And it is what it is, and you got to get through it, and you try to do the best you possibly can, and that's what we're going to have to do in this particular situation.
That's the message.
Yeah.
Well, how would you like to be the poor sap in Trump's office, Tony? That he comes back, okay, I'm going down to Mar-a-Lago. Have me a draft by the time I get back on Tuesday of my executive order to fix, because he said, we're going to fix every single thing that's been addressed here today. But then he did say at the end, of course, then we're going to get sued. And that's
and a tea time for Tuesday morning after we're done.
That's right. But I mean, the whole idea that you can write an executive order and fix this problem is just so comical. And the poor sap that's got to draft that, my goodness. I might just try to draft one just for fun over the next couple of days. I'm going to pretend like Trump has given me the assignment, and some of my solutions may be pretty creative. So that might be a fun exercise since I've got such an active social life. I have plenty of hours to devote to that. But anyway, that was the crowning blow that we're going to have an executive order to fix all these problems. If Trump really believes that's possible, then I'm not as confident as him running the show because, it's great to be a believer in your own ability, but this problem is so complex and so on so many levels impossible to unravel, and they've allowed the powers that be, due to lack of leadership in college athletics, and you mentioned Sankey and Petiti are right there in solidarity with their brothers, but they're not rooting for a solution.
No.
Their numbers, their revenues, and their product, Tony, this last season of college football, the most watched ever, and the SEC and Big Ten had almost every single game in the top 20 viewerships. The SEC, I think, had 7 of the top 9. So it ain't broke for them.
No.
Yeah, it's a mess and it's a headache, but everybody's agenda is not the same, and people have to recognize that.
We have reached out to, I still do have some contacts. I reached out to Nick Saban's people because I think that will be absolutely fantastic. I'm betting that he's going to be on Paul Feinbaum's show later this afternoon, knowing they have a relationship. Also, Kirby Smart is a guy that I've reached out to through his people because he certainly wasn't part of that and probably could have been. But one man I do know we could probably get on. I'm working on getting Tim Brando, who I know will have something interesting to say. He'd be worth the 30 minutes on our starting lineup show.
And that's what we have to give him, because you asked him one question. He takes 21 minutes to answer it.
Man. And listen,
what a wealth of information. Tim is awesome.
Tim's awesome. And the thing about Tim, though, is you don't hear Timmy on TV that much anymore. And why is because he's doing stuff for some knockoff networks. He's still doing the Fox thing, but he does a lot of West Coast games, a lot of whack stuff, a lot of stuff, USC games. And so a lot of his games are at nighttime. If you want to turn on a football game on 9:30, it's always lovely to hear Tim Brando's voice on television. I know I'm watching a Pac-10 game or a Pac-12 game, whatever it is. And so I want to get his thoughts on this, because for the most part, despite the fact that some of the biggest cities in the world are on our West Coast, they don't really get the pub we need to get them, because we don't watch them in the Midwest. We don't watch them in the East because it's too damn late. We're not watching BYU and USC games at 10:30 night, unless, of course, we need to make some money. We're trying to make up for a lost day on a Saturday. So I want to get his thoughts on this, because from an announcer standpoint, he probably has something really interesting to say about this particular situation. And I know he's not going to, listen, Tim Brando hasn't been treated fairly in his entire life. None of us have.
No.
But this is going to be a situation where you're either going to go fighting, and listen, for the little guys like the UABs and stuff, I think they're going to be okay. It is what it is. They know they can compete. And for example, the UAB basketball program had 7 transfers out of the 12 guys this past year. They had to start a program with 12 brand new guys, and somehow they won 20 games this year. Andy Kennedy's amazing. Axel Enderdorf, who of course was one of the best players in the AAC, he ends up going to Michigan, and he's playing now for a national championship.
Oh yeah,
it is what it is. He's not going to get paid at UAB what he's going to get paid at Michigan, and so that's what we're dealing with. Let the kids grab the money while they can. What's going to be really interesting, I think, is going to be fun. And by the way, and I wanted to pull this story up. I don't remember his name, and I apologize to him. There is a kid who has made a ton of NIL money at Auburn and has opened up a soup kitchen, a non-for-profit soup kitchen for people down in the Auburn part of the state, which I just think is one of the coolest things. He's been wanting to start this restaurant. I think it's called Feed the Streets. It's STREEZ maybe. And he's opened up this kitchen for homeless people, and he's taken all of his NIL money and poured it into this van or this food truck, and feeding people on the streets down in Auburn, which I just think is wonderful. It's so good to hear some people taking some of their NIL money, actually giving it back. With kudos to those people. I know a lot of people, college kids, are always thinking it's my money, it's my money, it's my money. And what he's doing right now is fantastic. I'll look more information on that. Maybe we'll mention it this weekend. But there are some good people that are doing some good things with their money. So from that standpoint, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. So anyway, I can't wait to see the executive order. I'm going to draft my executive order, and I'll share that with everybody in future shows. But I'm going to let my imagination run wild on what needs to take place here. One final thought. You've already got university presidents in the SEC and the Big Ten saying, this situation is not resolvable. The only avenue we have is to break away and start our own super conference. And I predicted that was going to happen 7 or 8 years ago. Yep. It's inevitable, Tony. They're going to have a whole elite level of teams, and then you're going to have everybody else. So
Jay Barger 20 years ago was talking about a four-team conference, 64 teams, 4 conferences, and just letting them battle it out.
That's what it's going to be.
And then figure out what everyone else is going to do. And unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. And you're going to see the landscape of college sports change a lot. You really are. Perhaps you're going to see some kids like mine not go spend $30,000 to go see a good program and get absolutely rip shot with the Clemson. Maybe if he'd gone to UAB, he knew exactly what he was getting himself into. It would have been a whole lot cheaper for his old man. Maybe that's what we're going to see as well. So who knows?
Well, you need to call your lawyers over at Rabinowitz and Rabinowitz and file suit against Dabo Swinney for lack of delivering.
Hey, he wasn't in Washington D.C. That should tell you something. He wasn't invited.
No, Dabo's still fighting the Pete Golding war, where Pete stole his player right out of the classroom. So, I mean, the Wild Wild West, Legend is absolutely right. No sheriff in town. You can get away with anything right now.
This is Keefer and Kurre. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, man.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.